Welcome to today's Masterclass. We are diving deep into portfolio management and strategic resource allocation. If you're a seasoned executive, a consultant, or gearing up to absolutely crush the CSCA exam, you are in the exact right place. We're skipping the textbook memorization today. Instead, we're going to wire your brain to think like a chief strategy officer and shape the future of billion-dollar organizations. Let's get right into it.
Okay, so right off the bat, we run into the core challenge that every single executive team faces when managing diversified organizations. Listen, leaders don't just run one simple business, right? They manage massive, complex portfolios of completely different products, services, and brands. You've got limited capital, extremely limited time, and limited talent. So the absolute fundamental question you have to relentlessly answer is, where should we actually invest our resources?
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll look at the executive challenge, decode the BCG Matrix, explore the GE/McKinsey upgrade, apply all of it in a Disney mini case, and finish up with some crucial executive takeaways.
All right, Section 1, the executive challenge. Let's set the real-world stakes here.
Just think about these conglomerates for a second. Amazon is balancing AWS with Prime Video and e-commerce. Alphabet is juggling Google Search, YouTube, Android, and their cloud business. Or take Apple, managing iPhones alongside mixed reality headsets, or Tesla, balancing cars with energy storage. How in the world do executives actually know which units deserve massive investment and which ones they should just harvest or exit? Well, they rely on strategic portfolio models.
So let's move to Section 2, decoding the BCG Matrix. We've got to look way beyond the basic definitions here to really grasp the executive implications.
The BCG Matrix is a classic for a reason. It categorizes businesses based on just two things, market growth rate and your relative market share. So high growth, high share, boom, that's a star. Think of Tesla in its breakout years. You want to invest aggressively there. Low growth but high share? That is your cash cow. Think Coca-Cola Classic or Microsoft Office. Maintain those to maximize your cash generation. Now, high growth but low share? That's a question mark, which requires some really careful evaluation. And finally, low growth, low share. That's a dog. Generally speaking, you just harvest or divest those.
Now, let's look at how this builds into a natural life cycle, because the CSCA exam loves testing this. Businesses evolve, you know? They usually start off as highly risky question marks. If they do well, they blast off and become high-flying stars. But eventually, that growth slows down, and that star matures into a highly profitable cash cow. And well, over time, as technologies age, even the absolute best cows stop producing and eventually turn into dogs.
But here is a massive exam trap and a totally critical rule for executives. Not all question marks actually become stars. A lot of them, think about Google Stadia or the Amazon Fire Phone, they just fail. They crash and burn directly into dogs. So management has to be ruthless and decide which question marks actually deserve our limited investment capital and which ones should we abandon before they completely drain our resources.
All right, on to Section 3, the GE/McKinsey upgrade. If the BCG Matrix is your starting point, this is the evolution you need for a much richer, more realistic strategic analysis. So instead of just looking at basic growth and share, the GE/McKinsey Matrix uses two much broader dimensions. First, industry attractiveness, which basically asks, is this market even a good place to be? Looking at overall profitability, regulations, and barriers to entry. And second, business unit strength, which asks, how strong are we in this space? Looking at things like brand power, innovation, and loyalty. Now, massive warning for you candidates, do not confuse these two. Think of a legacy company like Kodak in the early 2000s. They had a phenomenally strong brand, sure, but they were operating in a fundamentally unattractive, shrinking film industry. Because we're pulling in all these multiple variables, this model expands into a 9-cell matrix that brilliantly dictates 3 distinct strategic outcomes. If you've got high industry attractiveness and a super strong business position, you are firmly in the invest and grow zone. If you have moderate attractiveness or strength, you're in selective investment. Proceed with caution. And if you're stuck with low attractiveness and a weak position, well, you're in harvest or divest territory. Cut your losses or just extract whatever cash you can.
Let's put them head to head. The BCG Matrix is simple. It uses 2 dimensions, has 4 boxes, and it's fantastic for quick, high-level decisions. The GE/McKinsey Matrix, on the other hand, is sophisticated, uses multiple criteria across 9 boxes, and gives you a much richer, though definitely more complex analysis. You really need both as a strategist. BCG is great for rapid diagnostic triage, while GE/McKinsey is what you use for that deep dive, board-level capital allocation.
Moving into Section 4, the Disney mini case. Let's actually put this theory into practice with a rapid-fire scenario, just like you're going to see on the exam.
Imagine you're sitting in the CEO chair at Disney. You're looking at the raw data for 3 of your massive business units. Disney Plus is in a high-growth market, but right now it only has moderate to low relative share compared to entrenched giants like Netflix. Theme parks? They're in a low-growth mature market, but Disney has massively high market share there. And cruise lines? Just for this specific scenario, let's say they're facing low market growth and Disney has a low relative market share compared to pure-play cruise operators.
Let's test that consultant's mindset of yours. Looking at the BCG logic, Disney Plus operates in a booming, high-growth market, but holds a moderate or even lower share. What category does it fall into?
Yep, it's a question mark. Remember, just operating in a booming market is absolutely not enough to make you a star. You need the dominant market share too. Disney Plus requires massive continuous cash injections for content creation just to fight for that share, which makes it a classic, highly risky question mark.
Now, what about the theme parks? They're in a low-growth, highly mature industry, but Disney completely dominates with high market share. What role do they play in the portfolio?
They are the cash cow, and this is so vital. Strong market share in a mature industry means these parks literally print money. The absolute core executive takeaway here is that cash cows exist to finance the rest of your entire portfolio. It's those theme park profits that actually allow Disney to go wage war in the streaming space with Disney Plus.
Finally, Section 5. Traps and executive takeaways. Let's lock in everything we've covered today. The examiner is absolutely going to try to trick you, so watch out for these rapid-fire warnings. Trap 1, confusing market share with market growth. Hey, dominating a declining industry just makes you a cash cow, not a growth engine. Trap 2, assuming all question marks become stars. Like we saw, plenty crash and burn. Trap 3, thinking cash cows are attractive for new investment. Usually, they aren't. You just want to maintain them. Trap 4, confusing an attractive industry with a strong business. And Trap 5, treating these models like they're automatic decision-making machines.
Which leads perfectly to why executives have to be so careful here. These matrices severely simplify reality. I mean, they rely entirely on the subjective biases of whoever is drawing them up. Plus, they completely ignore cross-business synergies. What if that dog division is actually producing a component that's totally vital to your star? Furthermore, they involve highly subjective judgments, and they really only capture a single snapshot in time. These are decision support tools, not replacements for sound managerial judgment.
So, the ultimate point here is adopting the consultant's mindset. This is the golden rule for our masterclass today. When you look at a portfolio, do not act like a student and ask, which box are we in? You need to step up to the executive level and ask, based on this data, should we invest, maintain, harvest, or divest?
To wrap this up, I want to leave you with a few reflection questions. Look at your own organization right now. Which businesses actually generate cash and which ones merely consume it? How are you balancing short-term profitability with long-term survival? Anyone can memorize a matrix, right? But a true strategist knows exactly when to break the rules. Take a hard look at your company's portfolio today. Are you feeding your stars or are you just rescuing dogs? Apply these tools, ace your exams, and go shape the boardroom.